Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you listen to this episode of Tree Talk. It's episode 221. Myself, Jack Neville, and Matt Callan of the Weekly Observer and Vale Star. We have a very special guest that will be joining us from the start of the podcast, former Limerick inter-county goalie, four-time All-Ireland winner Barry Hennessy. So stay tuned for an interview with Barry and much more.
The impression again we get out with what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tommaso Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey. Carey leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it hard.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
As I said there in the intro, Matt, we do have a very special guest, and it is indeed Barry Hennessy. Barry, you obviously announced your retirement back in November or December. How's it been since then?
Emotional, Jack, we'll call it emotional. I know it's been great. It's been great. I suppose it was a novelty at the start and getting all the nice messages from people. But I suppose once the game's kind of kicked back in there in the last few weeks, you're kind of there saying to yourself, did I make the right decision or not? But I know it's been great.
You talk about making that decision in the games that you're probably referring to the Fitzgibbon Cup there. When did that come on the radar for you?
Courtesy of Fintan O'Connor. I had thought I was quietly just doing my part-time masters there below in Waterford, and the head kept down in the whole lot, and Fintan got wind that I was down there, and sure, you couldn't say no to the club boss, especially when you're going back there full time. So,
how did you find that? I suppose when you announced retirement, probably thought that you'd be waiting for Kilmallock season to start before playing high-level hurling, but you weren't long waiting for it.
No, and it was probably a little bit hard at the start because just you're kind of, I'm one of those people that you're either all in or you're not, like, and kind of into saying to me, look, just come when you can, kind of a thing. And I was kind of itching at that as well, saying, I don't know, can I do that? Do you know, it's not fair on other fellas, but I got to play a couple of games before Christmas and played a couple of games and after Christmas. And in fairness, we had a good run to last week there and nearly pipped the eventual champions, you know, so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, nearly pipped UL, I suppose. In the grand scheme of things, you probably gave UL their hardest game over the course championship, only lost by 3 points, and we saw what they did to everyone else. That you must take huge, I suppose, encouragement from that.
Yeah, look, it was a great performance for ourselves. I suppose no one gave us much of a chance, really, to be honest. I don't think people gave us much of a chance against DCU either. We got a big result up in Dublin and probably missed maybe 2-8 in the second half against UL. That ultimately cost us in the end. But look, they're a fantastic team. They're littered with inter-county stars all over the place. And even if you look at the 30-odd lads they have on the bench as well, they'd make any college team, let alone any other team in the country, you know. So it was great to kind of play to that standard. And even though it was probably a moral victory as such, that you ran them so close, you know, it was big for the college to get back to the semi-final again after, I think it was 8 years or 10 years since they'd last been there. So it was progress anyway.
From a personal point of view, to keep out the likes of Mikey Kiley and Adam English and these boys, you must be happy with that yourself.
I had very little to do with that now, Jack. As I said to you previous, we'd a full forward that was converted to full back. That would turn out to nearly being a masterstroke from Fintan if we got over the line against Joel. In fairness, he gave. I actually think they're best friends. Would you believe it? Sam and Mikey. So I don't know, were they taking it easy on each other or what? But in fairness to Sam, he gave Mikey plenty of it on the night anyway, and his brother was in the corner then as well, and his brother gave Adam plenty of it then as well. So I think the two boys were probably a bit frustrated that they didn't get much ball in the semi-final and let loose in the final. So.
And after the run to the semi-final, was there any thought in your head to give John Kiley a bell and go back in?
No, he's 3 very capable goalkeepers inside there at the moment. That all can do a job. Will do the job that John needs. So I was just more than happy to I suppose play something to keep your mind off the retirement side of things and the games that the lads are playing now.
On the announcement, I suppose, firstly, were you surprised with, I suppose, the outpouring afterwards, the amount of messages you would have received and the impact on social media? And I suppose then as well, what was it? When did you make the decision to actually leave the camp?
Yeah, I suppose, look, it's always, I suppose it's always nice to get the messages. You didn't realise, I suppose, the magnitude of the messages you were going to get, like, and I suppose the impact that you may have had on people. I suppose all you want to kind of do when you finish your career is have the respect of the people that you played with, and so the management and teams that you've been involved with then as well. And to get that, and then obviously get everything else then from supporters and friends and family. You know, it was nice. No, it was a nice touch. You know, I suppose, justified all the sacrifices that were made over the years. But in terms of the decision itself, I suppose having two young ladies under 2 was one of the bigger factors. And spending a little bit more time at home, and even towards the end of the year last year, it was just getting a little bit harder to get out the door to train, and there was no picking up the gear bag anymore at 4 o'clock and heading away. To be inside for 5, it was nearly like an army coordination on the battlefield, trying to collect the small lady and drop her to her grandparents' house to mind her for the hour or two till Elaine came home and collected her. So I just factored in those things, and I suppose, look, they're only small for so long. And in fairness to Elaine, she had said to me that if I wanted to go back for another year, that we could make it work. But I probably asked for a lot already, and used all my favours. So I said, look, it's time now to pass it on to someone else. So.
And you talk about passing on to someone else. The standard goalie in Limerick is extremely high at the moment. Obviously, Dave McCarthy and Jamie Power inside there, Jason Gallan as well. And even in your own club, I know Conor Handy plays out the field for you, but for you, he's a goalie. So there's a lot coming through as well.
Oh, massive. I think it's whoever gets it for the next couple of years. Whenever Nicky decides to finish, it's going to be still in very safe hands. I think I've said this before. Limerick have been incredibly blessed in the last 20 years to have the standard of goalkeeper that they've had. I don't think you look back on any of the teams and say, there was a weak link there. We've been blessed in that department for a long time now. Even back to Tommy got arrested. It's been in incredibly safe hands. And looking at what's coming after that, even you look at the likes of Tomas Lynch, there's another couple of lads there that are underage as well that are, at a good age profile. I've no doubt that they'll get exposure in years to come as well, and it'll continue to be in safe hands, whoever has it.
Yeah, it looks to be in safe hands, but for so long we've been blessed to have yourself and Nicky, and your careers kind of merged in a long way. Like, how much do you take from the fact that you pushed Nicky to, I suppose, a new level over the last 7 or 8 years, that he is considered one of the best in the current game and one of Limerick's best of all time?
Yeah, look, it's I think it's a good reflection on yourself, Jack, and how you were performing, but I suppose equally important for me was you David, or you Jason, Jamie back in 2019, Aaron Murphy previous to that. There's always been a good trio that have been there pushing each other, so like the third choice pushes your second choice, and your second choice pushes your first choice, and your first choice is no choice but to perform, so and look, I think we work very well. There was a good dynamic there. There's a very positive and healthy relationship there, because you hear some horror stories in other places of the goalkeepers that don't get on, and they're always trying to better each other and injure each other and get one up in each other, whereas we have a very healthy working relationship there, where we just wanted the best for the group, as opposed to just ourselves. So
you'd want to have a healthy relationship, because you do be there an awful lot before other lads to train, and like if Limerick are training, we'll say at 7 o'clock, how early are the goalies there getting their warm-up done?
See, we're older now, Jack, as well, so you have to go in and get the bit of strapping, and you have to do the mobility work and the stretching and all that to make sure that you're still able to get on the pitch. But look, you probably start about 40 minutes sometimes before that, before the lads will start, and just get your bit of striking or whatever to be done first, get that out of the way, that if you are needed in the session, then that you'd have a body of work done before that. So yeah, look, you spent a lot of time. I spent more time, I'd say, with Nicky in the last 10 years than I did with some of my family. So yeah, look, that was great, and it was great to get a chance to work with him, and see it literally at front row level. His abilities and what he was capable of doing, and what he is capable of doing. So.
And the role of a goalkeeper since you started, for Kilmallock, that's obviously changing off it now. We even see some goalies come up and score, and you've scored a share of frees for Kilmallock. Like, it's chalk and cheese, I suppose, when you started the role of the goalkeeper.
I actually saw a video of my senior debut with Kilmallock against Kerry Spillane on YouTube floating around there at Christmas time. I think it was Finbar Walsh or someone had shared it. And I think every ball that I got, I didn't even move with it. I just threw it up and hit it as far as I could down the field. So I think if you did that now in the modern game, you wouldn't be long sitting on the sideline. I can tell you with the manager beside you. But yeah, look, it's mad. You've gone from trying to make the miraculous, outstanding dive and save into the top corner to now, at the moment, I suppose, look, it's heavily focused on restarts and possessions and being comfortable on the ball. But your mentality changes completely from you want to be involved in everything and blocking those balls, like I said, in the top corner, to you just want the team to win now, and whether you if you just have to pluck out the ball, so be it, or if you're involved, even better again. But as long as the team gets over the line, you don't really mind what your input is. So.
That evolution of the goalkeeper almost resembles the evolution of Limerick. Since you came in, and you were in there, I think in 13, but missed out on a Munster medal, and you were back in 14 full time. But if you go back, we'll say 10 years, did you ever envisage this turnaround for Limerick?
You probably knew it was there. It was just trying to get the monkey off the back was the big thing. We probably had similar quality players in the earlier years as every other county. But was there just the 73 and in the back of your head, and 94 and 96, and nearly getting there? Was that in the back? Was that just built into the psyche of Limerick at that stage? But you could kind of see it then towards the end of 15, 16, when the younger lads from the academy started to come in. The likes of Tom Morrissey, who were just natural born leaders, Garrod, that would have no problem at 19, 20 years of age of pulling all their lads and showing their leadership qualities and their standards. And I think the standards that the younger lads brought in, because they'd won so much at underage level as well. Going back to say myself and Nicky's time, I think we won very little. I think we won one minor match in 2 years, and I don't know, did we even win a 21s match? We were knocked out more than we were in it anyway. But those lads, they'd won minors, they'd won All Irelands with schools, Harty Cups, 21s, so they'd medals. They had to pay for their coffee with medals at that stage, So when they came into the senior ranks, they just drove standards completely and brought it to a whole new level. And I think it was, in my case, it was the right place at the right time. So.
Oh yeah, well, you'd soldier for a few years at that stage. But was there any turning point? Do you remember? I suppose maybe turning to Nicky or turning to someone saying this is changing, or was it more gradual with the lads coming in at training?
I suppose myself and Seamus Hickey used to travel to train and go a bit together, and we'd always say, like, at the end of 17, you could feel that there was a mountainous amount of work that was done in 17, and even though results probably didn't go the way that we had hoped, you could still see that the way we were trying to play had changed, the way we were training had changed, the standards around the setup had changed. Lads were buying into it, and then in 18, I think John even references it himself. Look, Galway, Salt Hill in the league was a watershed moment for the group, and it probably set a few pulses racing across the next couple of years, because we had an awful habit of falling behind maybe by 5 or 6 points, similar to Salt Hill, and then just literally grinding it out and get over the line by 1 or 2 points. So I think that Galway game was probably the moment for the group that, look, this was one of the big heavy hitters, or perceived heavy hitters, that were in line to win another All Ireland, and we were after turning them over on their own patch after being, I think, was it 8 points down in one stage. So
you mentioned Galway there, and obviously a few months later it's Galway again, not Ireland final. And I suppose, what was the build up like, around Limerick? Because there was huge fanfare. It's different now, where we're kind of used to it, but back in 18 it was the first All Ireland final in 11 years, and you're going for a first All Ireland in 43. But there didn't seem too much panic in the squad. Even, you mentioned Tom Morris before, his interview afterwards, he's one of the coolest men in Croke Park. What was it like that day, I suppose, going up to Dublin, and just the day itself?
I think it was, I just credit to John and to Caroline, it was incredibly calm. There was an excitement more so than a nervousness, because I think we just had got, John talks about incremental improvements, we got better across the year. Each game we got better, got more comfortable with each other, and I suppose that belief was there as well. And I suppose no one gave us really much of a chance against Galway. They were all saying that we were going to be bullied, and we didn't have the physicality maybe that they had. And I just remember the first 10 minutes, whatever notion of not having physicality was blown out of the water, because there was a couple of massive hits from our boys straight away, and it probably set the tone for the rest of the game. But look, it was incredibly calm. As I said, lads were excited more so than anything else, and we were very well protected too. We weren't told to go home and lock ourselves up for 2 weeks before it. We were encouraged, obviously, to live your life and to get on with your business, go to work, etc. Nothing has changed, and it was just, I suppose, treating it as another game, and that that's the way it had been treated then for the 4 or 5 years after that. Every game is just a game, and just go out and enjoy it and go out and win your game. So
Yeah, I suppose an awful lot happened in the intervening years. Then you won, obviously, again in 2021 and 22. What was the difference between 2018 and 2022? I suppose last year seemed like there was a lot of pressure as well going for that 3 in a row, which you had experience being there. It did seem to be a level of calm again.
yeah, I think, look, you've just incredibly driven group and competitive group. The lads just want to win as much as possible, whether that's training, matches, cards on the train, coming up. Lads are just extremely driven. And I suppose there's a great collective and a good bond there that lads just want to work for each other and do the best for the men beside them. And there's no it's we before me. So I think lads have completely bought into that, and just that shines through on the pitch then, and lads are willing to literally empty the tank for each other. And anytime we've done that, or they've done that, we've got a result. So.
And obviously for you, success has followed at club level as well. And I'll throw it over to you, Matt, because you know a keen observer of the Limerick Senior Championship for the last few years.
Barry, first of all, congratulations on a great career with the county. I presume we'll see you guarding the Balbec net for another while.
I think I'm 4 years after 20 years service at senior level, Matt. So I'm hoping to get to that to there. So that's the plan anyway.
That's good news anyway. Barry, I suppose 2022 was the first full year where we saw the split season, and how difficult was it to make the transition from the highs of the inter-county scene back down to the club level?
I suppose there's that bedding in period again, Matt, of just because obviously Limerick was successful and you went right to the end, and I think you're only a week of kind of a turnaround before you were back into the action again. So look, the first week was probably a little bit difficult because you were just trying to recenter yourself and get yourself back, and of course give your club teammates the respect that deserves as well, so it was probably the first week was probably a little bit hard, all right, but once you got back in with the lads and started training with the club again and just got on a roll, it's seamless, to be honest with you. There's like the last few years, Matt, there's been no one kind of looking backwards and clapping yourself on the back for winning an All-Ireland. You're straight back into the thick of it with your club, and as I said, that deserves your respect too, at the highest level as well. So,
but Barry, your career to date with Kilmallock has coincided with a very, very successful spell for the club. 4 county titles in the last 12 years is absolutely phenomenal by any standard. In a county where the club championship is so competitive.
Definitely, Matt. Like you look at I think look at both groups and all the teams that are in both groups. There's a puck of a ball between the majority of teams and even the perceived weaker teams. I wouldn't class them as weaker teams. The championship is extremely healthy and extremely competitive. I think that coincides then obviously with the health of the inter-county game as well. So all that work that has been done at grassroots level in clubs and in the academies as well, you can see it in fruition in the senior championship, because you see South Liberty's turned Patrick's well over this year. They should have turned us over the year previous in the quarter-final. They went extra time and we just got out by the skin of our teeth. You see Adair highly competitive as well. Kildime Palace Henry went on a run this year as well. So the landscape is changing. People say that there's only 4 teams in Limerick, but the landscape is changing, and it's only a matter of time before you see the likes of Monleen, the Mungrets, and those teams as well push on and challenge that top group as well.
You won a very good county in 2021, Barry. Probably a bit disappointed last year, but disappointed probably with the performance in the final, maybe more so. But there are still exciting times ahead for Kilmallock with the like of Shane O'Brien, Conor Handy, Clark, and those coming on the scene.
Yeah, and look at Pierce Connery there, Matt, as well. Like, there's a nice, you still have lads there, like Mihal is still only 25, you've Oshid. I suppose a group that maybe was perceived to be on its last legs, when you look at the older lads on the panel, has been just rejuvenated with the younger lads that have come in. Like Shane was a massive difference last year for us, that you had that focal point up front. But at the end of it, like, he was still only 18 years of age, and as a group, you can't be relying on your 18-year-old in his first year senior to get you over the line. Like, it's up to us to mind him and bring him on. But it's a good sign for the club, and there's more younger lads there that are only champing at the bit to get through as well, which is great to see, because as I said, it keeps competitive and it keeps us all honest. and it stops any, I suppose, complacency creeping in. So
Kilmallock have a great tradition, Barry, in putting emphasis on underage structure and underage hurling. You were part of a glorious period in the noughties when Kilmallock were winning minor and under 21 titles at will.
Yeah, and look, I think credit goes back there, Matt, to Paddy Kelly, Bernie Savage, Jim Maloney, Mick Keane, God rest him. You know, there was a lot of people there, Mike O'Connor, that were involved at that at underage level and brought us through. And I suppose personally, especially Paddy Kelly, you know, Paddy was, he's a neighbour of mine, and he was the fella that if Paddy spoke, you listened, you know, and you shut everything else out around your life and you listened to Paddy and what he said, you know. So the likes of him were massive for us, because he brought that team ethic and that teamwork to us, and you know, obviously the skill side of it then as well. And I think it obviously bore fruition then, because we won in every age group, being honest, from 14s to 21, you know. So you can see when the work is done, it does come true.
I'm just wondering, getting back maybe to the county briefly for the moment, what kind of a spectator will you be? Will you be an armchair spectator, or will you go to the matches? Or
I haven't brought myself to go to one yet, Matt, but I've watched the last two on the telly. All right, it's still a little bit raw, I suppose. But no,
do you get animated?
Yeah, I suppose you're trying to remove yourself from being. I suppose, look, I was probably in a similar position when you're watching on from the stand, you know, as you are from watching at home. But you know, I suppose what the lads are trying to do, and what they're trying to go after. And then when you see things done well, you know, you're obviously excited from, and you're delighted. And when you see things break down a little bit, you're probably as frustrated as you would be inside the stand. But yeah, look, we'll get to a match eventually, Matt. I think I'm targeting the end of the league anyway. Like the Outland, the panel are targeting the end of the league just before championship to make the appearance, and then definitely once the championship rolls around, I plan on having the two small ladies with me, and we're going wherever the bus is going.
I'll cut across you there, Matt, because I am conscious of time. We have you but I'll keep you for another few minutes, Barry, if you don't mind. Obviously your retirement, and we've lost Seamus Hickey and Richie McCarthy in the last 2 years. Can you start to see that new crew coming through, the likes of out of English, you saw up close person, Colin Coughlin for you well, Carl O'Neill, and even your club now, Shane O'Brien, that it has been a core group for the last 5 or 6 years, that there's a few younger lads starting to break through?
Yeah, there is. And to be fair, like, you used to live, even looking at the demographic and the age group on the team, Jack, like, you still have a lot of hurling left from a lot of the big names. There's still, like, there's a lot of them in their late 20s as well. But like those younger lads, I think John has a great knack of integrating those younger lads into squads and into teams and across leagues and championships, you know. He just seems to always have the right answer of when to let the horse out of the paddock, you know, and let him go. And it's worked over the years. But look, there's an incredibly experienced spine on the team as well. And, you know, he's well able to build it around that as well. And those lads like Cahill and Colin, like, they got exposure the first couple of years. Paddy O'Loughlin was the same. Joe played in an All-Ireland final at a very, very young age as well. And, you know, you give a lad that taste of it, and they're only chomping at a bit, then you get a little bit more out of it. And for the likes of Adam, who I suppose spent a little bit of time on the injury table last year, like, this is going to be a big year for him. You can already see it with UL, like, he's flying it. And you saw it against Clare, then when he put into the middle of the field where he had the space to show off his skill set, you know, he fitted in seamlessly. And that's the beauty of it. It doesn't matter who it is. Everyone in the group just steps up seamlessly, and nothing ever changes. There's no change of tactics. There's no reverse of anything. It's literally full steam ahead, no matter who's there.
Yeah, and just off the field for a moment, you obviously had a very good podcast, the Player's Voice podcast. I'd definitely recommend anyone on Spotify, and you spoke off the ball as well, that you dealt with an eating disorder when you were younger. And I suppose what I took from it was that the key was to, I suppose, speak out about it. And if you were to say it now, you know, your overriding message from someone that's gone through it and is probably living with it, what would you say to someone that has experienced something similar?
Yeah, I suppose, look, to having an open dialogue with someone, whether it's a friend, a trained professional, you know, anyone that you feel that you can trust or just talk to have an open dialogue and speak to someone about it. Because, look, even after the last couple of months and the exposure that's after getting, you still find it a little bit hard to maybe articulate your feelings and speak to someone about it. You nearly still get a little bit embarrassed when someone says it, you know, or fair play to you for speaking about it. But look, if you just wanted to try and raise a bit of awareness around it, and that if it helped one person, that it was a massive success on my part. It wasn't. It was the furthest thing from looking for attention. Anyway, I can tell you, because I don't do attention well. But yeah, look, if it helps someone, great, and just to speak out and just start that initial conversation with someone, because stubbornness, Jack, was the big thing for me. I was too stubborn and probably too proud to speak to someone about it, just for fear of what they might have thought of me at the time. So. Definitely just speak to someone, because there's incredible services there.
Oh yeah, no, it was definitely brilliant to hear, and there's obviously that stigma is still there, but we're slowly breaking it down. But to see, a high profile player like yourself to come out, I'm sure helped far more than that one. But again, if it only helped one, it's beneficial to everyone. Before you go, just a few quick questions, just from a personal point of view. Favorite venue with the club and county for you to play in?
Club and county favorite venue. Parky Queeve anyway. Parky Queeve is outside of Crow Park. I think everyone loves to say Crow Park, but Parky Queeve is just an amazing facility and amazing surface as well. And it kind of held that old atmosphere that the old Parky Queeve had, that bowl. So I used to love travelling down there. From the club point of view, I think the work that's gone into the Gaelic Grounds there in the last year has been incredible. Like the county final there last year, I've never seen the surface as well. So I'm actually excited to see how it's going to turn out this year for even the Inter-County Championship, when it was given 6 or 7 months to really be looked after, and once the summertime kicks in and the sun starts to hit it again. Really looking forward to that. Used to love going to Bruff, I suppose, as well. Jack, we spent more time in Bruff than we did in Kilmallock. So.
Yeah. Favorite player growing up?
A hybrid of Donal Cusack and Brendan Cummins, if you could take a half each.
And at club level then, was there any goalkeeper around you're looking up to, or even in Kilmallock?
Sure, I suppose, look, my father played in goals before me, and I took the reins off him, so you would always kind of, you were trying to break away from under that shadow of, does Tom Hennessy son there, or will he be better than his father? And that's always in the back of your head too, that you want to rubber stamp that you were. So not saying that I am, but yeah, you didn't have too far to look anyway. So
you forged your own successful career anyway.
That's
and
it.
Best player you played against, that could be a goalie or an outfield player that you used to dread coming against?
I used to dread playing against. I don't know if he's much of a goalie, but David Dempsey. David Dempsey's a wizard, an absolute wizard. I've seen him do things in training, and just you think you've him copped, and you think you've his tail got, but no, it's just amazing what he can do with a hurling a ball. So. And
best player played with then? It could be David again, or.
Best player I played with, that's a hard question. Jack, there's a lot of good players there. I know it's a bit of a soft spot for Seamus Hickey, just his, outside of travelling training and the whole lot, just his application, and just his dedication was just phenomenal. Like himself and Nicky, if you looked at two fellas that if anyone ever asked you what does a Limerick hurler look like, you'd say Seamus Hickey and Nicky Quaid. They're the two that just epitomise everything about what it is to be a Limerick hurler in terms of skills and on the field and off the field.
And finally, your best memory, hurling memory, I suppose?
2018 would be hard to top now, but even 2010 winning a county championship with your club was massive for us, and then county side of it, 2018 it was amazing. It was probably one of the best moments there ever was. So don't tell my wife that.
Hopefully be able to experience the first Ireland from the stand later on this year. But look, Barry, you've been very generous with your time, a half an hour there. I told you 15 minutes, but fair play to you for staying on. And I think thank you, I suppose, to the Limerick public for a brilliant career, first and foremost, and the role you played in helping Limerick, reach the heights they have. And please God, those will continue. But I'll let you get back to work there, and best of luck in the future. And I'm sure we'll talk to you again once the club championship rolls around.
Please God.
Thanks very much, Barry.
Thanks, Jack.
Right.
Thanks, Matt. Cheers.
Oh, Matt, brilliant guest there, wasn't it?
Well, Jack, you got just a little snapshot there of, why Limerick have won 4 of the last five All-Irelands with guys like him on board. It's very easy to see it.
Yeah, just the way he speaks there, and his first-hand experience. And I suppose the main thing is that he praised the people coming through as well, so long may it continue. I suppose the main thing for inter-county players, they always say, is they want to leave the jersey.
Fantastic guy, and that's Barry,
Yeah, you want to leave the jersey in a better position, and people like Barry Hennessy have certainly done that. So huge thank you for him there to giving so much of his time. And again, definitely ran overboard, but that's pure us, Matt. But Briefly,
I think we'll be forgiven for it, Jack.
Yeah, definitely. Oh no, it's a fantastic listen there, and I will say again his podcast, the Players Voice podcast on Spotify, and also one we did with Off the Ball recently, are very informative of other stuff off field topics as well as on field, and a great insight. The more you can listen to Barry Hennessy, I think is the better, is the key, I'd say there. But keeping on the team of Limerick hurling, Matt, and we obviously have Galway this Sunday at 2:30 in Pearse Stadium. Limerick are 50-50 so far, a win and a loss. Last year in the Gaelic Grounds, Galway really gave it to Limerick. I think it was a 117 to 28 points or something. They really dominated, and Limerick showed last week or 2 weeks ago against Clare that they're, kind of in revenge form, put Clare completely to the sword. But Galway will probably be a step up, especially in Salthill. But Barry spoke about that game in 2018, how much of a turning point that place can be in for Limerick. That's what we're hoping for this weekend.
Yeah, that's what we'd be hoping for, Jack. But reflecting on last year, we had to remember the controversial sending off in that game. But notwithstanding that, Jack, and we said it last week about, in terms of preparation and in terms of readiness for the league, Limerick are much further down the road this year than they were 12 months ago. Now, we're facing a team that are in similar circumstances to ourselves, in that they had a very impressive win in the first round against Wexford in Wexford Park. Now, a very difficult place to go, as we know, Wexford Park. But that was a game that doubled up with the Walsh Cup final. So Galway picked up silverware, and it augured well for the future, for their future in the league. That was until Cork came to town in the second round and turned them over. Now, I know they were probably more affected. Galway were probably more affected with the Fitzgibbon Cup than most counties, because they had so many players involved with the University of Galway and with ATU Galway. They had a whole raft of players. I think the ATU Galway team, I think both teams were exclusively Galway.
I think the NUIG captain, I think, is actually from Clare, but they definitely had 14 starters from Galway, and ATU had 15, I think, yeah.
They were trying to. Now, the other counties, Cork were trying to juggle it as well, because they had so many players with UCC. But look, in the context of the league, Jack, it's a game that Limerick have to win if they're to harbour hopes of reaching the semi-final. Because I know we have games against Westmeath, which you would be expecting to win in Mullingar, and then we have Wexford at home in the last round. So, were Limerick to win, I think they would be in a very, very good place to reach the league semi-final. But were they to lose, I think it would probably make it that little bit more difficult for them to make it through. Now, how much Limerick want to win the league? That's the $64 question. I think what John Kiley will be looking for, he'll be looking to use the league to give players important game time, maybe to juggle his forces around. We have seen a chance of, in one round, we have seen Barry Murphy lining out at midfield, that sort of thing, moving players around. It's going to be an interesting game in Salthill. And if Limerick repeat the performance of the first half against Cork and the performance of the game against Clare, you could say in the game against Clare they were landslide 6-point winners.
Oh yeah,
I think they should be capable of winning in Salthill, but obviously Henry Shefflin will have different ideas. And again, like Limerick, it will depend to what extent do Galway want to win the league, or do they want to use the league to rebuild their forces?
Yeah, it's interesting there you mentioned about winning the league, and do teams want to when it's so close to one championship. But the way we've seen this Limerick team this year, there's been a lot of new faces, completely new faces now, not just fringe players. There's also been a lot of fringe players, but it's probably important for those that have been on the fringes and those players that are new to the squad to be able to go to Galway and to be able to win in Salthill, because we saw what it did for the likes of Keane Lynch and Tom Morrissey and Grot Hegarty, these boys in 2018, that we are seeing some bit of a turnover in the Limerick team, and we know the likes of those boys, Kyle Hayes, Nicky Quaid, Sean Finn, they have no fear of going anywhere else. But a test like Sunday is a chance for your Adam English, your Donegal Dollig, your Shane O'Brien's to be able to say, yeah, we went to Salthill and we won as well. You know, that when it comes to the cut and thrust of championship, that they know how to get the job done in a difficult environment.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, Jack. It's going to be a far more difficult game than Clare, and it will be very, very important to see how these guys that you mentioned, the Micheál Houlihan's of this world, react in that type of environment, away from home, probably a hostile crowd, and a much stronger team at this time of the year anyway. It certainly will be a greater test. It'll be very, very interesting to see what lineup John Kiley will come with. We probably know that David Reedy is out, but we haven't. Now we know that Dermot Burns is away. We know that Declan Hannon is nursing an injury, and we don't know if the Galway game will come too soon for him. But we've yet to see players like Barry Nash and Willem O'Donoghue this year, and it'll be interesting to see if they will make their 2023 debut in Salthill.
Yeah, I'd say we'll probably get the team Thursday or Friday night. But it will be interesting to see, and it's no harm integrating these lads in slowly, because come April and May, we'll definitely be relying on the likes of Barry Nash and William O'Donoghue. But it's an interesting game to look forward to. Galway is always a difficult test, especially when they're at home.
Jack, in recent years, Galway is a benchmark of where you're at.
Yeah, and I think it's
they have been one of the top sides since they won the All Ireland in 2017. Jack, I have no doubt, were it not for the emergence of this powerful Limerick team, that Galway would possibly have won a couple of more All Irelands. I think they are the nearest to Limerick, and I still think they are the nearest.
When you look at the results between the sides over the last 5 or 6 years, there's never been too much in it, even in 2 All-Ireland semi-finals as well, inside in that, you know. So Galway probably match up best to Limerick. So it will be a good benchmark, and brilliant to get that benchmark probably 7 or 8 weeks before championship, that you can learn from it and then go back onto the training field. But we will move on from the hurling, because we did have a lot of hurling in the first half hour, to the footballers, Matt. And obviously Ray Dempsey and his side were out last weekend against Louth in RD. Now, neither of us were there, so you're relying on reports and scores and all that. But it seems like it was an opportunity missed. Seemed to be a good first half for Limerick. They were leading towards the halftime whistle. Louth came back to level it, but got 6 unanswered at the start of the second half. And that seemed to just turn the tide completely. Limerick gave a seasonal debut to Brian Donovan, which is great to see, and he hit the net, and you'll be thinking if he was there from the start, would have been a different result. But it is 115 to 113. Limerick are still rooted to the bottom of the division. They're the only team without points so far, and before we get into Cork, who they have this Sunday, a chance missed, I think, is the best way to describe it.
A chance missed against a team that has become, in the last, well, particularly last year and again this year now, becoming a bit of a bogey team under Mickey Hart. I think we have to go back. We were talking with Pa Ranahan last week, and you know, I think he was in the last team that beat Louth, which was back in 2015, which is a long, long way back. And you know, there's no doubt about it, Jack, as when we were doing the permutations here next week, and like after the defeats to Derry and Dublin, the permutations we have to do our permutations for survival. And certainly you would have seen the games between Clare and Louth in particular as being absolutely crucial. Now, I know that Limerick have back-to-back home games coming up against Meath and against Kildare, who certainly, I suppose, apart from their win over Cork in the first round, Meath haven't been rooting up any trees. Like they struggled to beat Clare in Navan, and they got well turned over. I saw most of it, Jack, by by Derry last week in Owenbeg. So, but look, Limerick are in a difficult situation, Jack, and there's no point in saying otherwise. Going to Cork on Sunday, and it's part of a double header, by the way. It's going to be, the game is at 3:45. It's going to be preceded by the Cork Westmeath Alliance Hurling League at 1:45. But going to Cork, it's a must win. A very, very, very difficult task, Jack, because I made the point to you, I think, at the outset, that I thought that Cork would be the biggest threat to Derry and Dublin. And I think were it not for that shock defeat to Meath in the first round, when the Cork defence opened up like the Red Sea a couple of times, they would be in a very, very strong position. And we saw how close they really pushed Dublin last weekend. I had a fancy for Cork as being outsiders for the top two right from the start, and my mind hasn't changed. Because, following the defeat to Meath, they went to Kildare, had a huge win, difficult place to go, Newbridge. I think Limerick are really, really up against it. Now, the real positives for Limerick, the two major positives, I suppose, in terms of personnel that came out of the game against Louth, was that Hugh Burke started, which was great to see him in from the start. And as you flagged there a while ago, Brian Donovan made a telling and an impact on his reintroduction as a sub with that goal. So the probability is that Ray Dempsey will have those two lads from the start, which will be very, very, very important.
Cahill Downs as well started after
Cahill Downs
Dublin, got a point
back
as well.
And by all accounts did very, very well in Louth.
A huge
very,
presence
very well
in the forward line. But anyone that
it,
saw Cork at the weekend, Matt, as you alluded to, couldn't but be impressed by him. Definitely deserved something from the game. Maybe not win, but they definitely deserved a draw against Dublin.
I think they did everything but win the football match, to be honest.
And Dublin had the majority of their, not the majority, they had an awful lot of All-Ireland winners, as they did against Limerick. But if you're comparing how the teams got on against Dublin, which is the only similarity so far that they've played against, it is going to be a very, very tough ask for Limerick. Probably you're looking for a result, but if you get a performance that you can take back to the Gaelic Grounds in successive weeks against Kildare and Meath, with teams that you maybe not fancy yourself against, but will be confident of being able to pick up something, that's probably what you're looking for this weekend. Obviously, 2 points on the board would be the ideal, but performance, I think, first and foremost, and more learnings, as Ray Dempsey keeps alluding to.
Like, the only thing, Jack, about Cork and Páirc Uí Chaoimh, over the last 3 or 4 years, Cork footballers' record at home is paltry. And I think the result of Meath against Meath in the first round might be feeding into that. It's absolutely paltry. There was one season they had 4 games at home and they only won against Louth, who were relegated. So they have a poor, and Clare have gone to Páirc Uí Chaoimh and won. Tipperary have gone down the championship and won. We might be clutching with straws when we think that Cork have a poor home record. But Jack, there's no taking away. I thought their performance in the McGrath Cup, I even though it was only the pre-season, but I thought it was a sign of things to come. As I say, the only little setback that Cork have received was that performance against Meath, and like the performance last Sunday, was first class. But look, we've got to focus on Limerick, but there's no harm in pointing out the level of challenge that they are going to meet on Sunday. I think they will do very well to leave Leeside with anything, Jack.
Yeah, it'll be very difficult, and I think on the McGrath Cup you mentioned, Limerick have definitely improved from that game, but so have Cork, and Cork were pretty dominant in that evening. So it is a very tough ask. But Limerick, this group of players have showed in the past that when needs must, at the most times, that they've come up, and as we mentioned all the time, they've gone to Markovich Park, they've gone to Ackram, they've gone to Port and come away with a win. So we're hoping that they can somehow continue that trend on Sunday afternoon.
They went to Belfast last year and dug out an unlikely win.
Yeah, so they're going to need it, but this group of players are definitely capable of doing just that. Moving into the ladies' football
Definitely,
match.
Jack. Getting back to it, it would so much enhance their survival chances were they to overturn Cork.
Yeah, but I think the way Cork have gone, Cork probably aren't looking down anymore towards relegation. They're probably out of the running. They'll have Derry, I suppose. They have Derry, yeah, but they're probably a bit out of the reckoning for going up. But they'll probably be looking to consolidate their place as the third team.
Believe it or not, Jack, they're still in with a chance of reaching the final. And I'll tell you, if they win all their games, and Dublin beat Derry, they'll get the league final spot on the head-to-head with Derry.
Yeah, so it will be interesting. But for Limerick, hopefully that they can pull off what would be it would be a shock to some degree. But this Limerick team, as we said, have shown in recent years they're well capable of doing something like that. For the ladies' side, Matt, a thrilling game to say the least in the Bog Garden. Last Sunday, it looked for all the world that Limerick were dead and buried at halftime, and then they somehow miraculously got ahead late on. But Leitrim kicked the final 2 scores, and over the course of the 60 minutes, I think a draw is a fair reflection on the game that we witnessed. 4-9 to 118 it finished in the Bog Garden. 3 second half goals. Obviously, Iris Kennelly came on and kicked 2-2 and nearly turned the game by herself, with so many brilliant performances from the ladies' side. It doesn't quite get the league semi-final place, Matt, but almost nearly guarantees it. But first and foremost, performance against Leitrim, who we said had been a farm team. Now, standard of opposition wasn't great, but they have some brilliant players like Michelle Guckian and Laura Fox and these kind of players. For Limerick, are you a really young Limerick team to put it up to them and to come back from the dead and nearly put out a win, but get a draw? It certainly bodes well for the remainder of the league, but obviously looking at the championship as well. Yeah,
and Graham Shine has shuffled the pack again, and he did so successfully. But Iris Kennelly missed the trip to Wicklow. She was not available, and I rate Iris Kennelly very, very highly, as you've probably heard in this podcast down through the years, Jack. I think she's a wonderful player, and her impact was incredible. Like when you come on in the 50th minute, and by the 56th minute you have scored 2-2. That's the facts. That is Rye of the Rover stuff, Jack. It is. Because in fairness, Limerick had brought back Leitrim to manageable, to a manageable lead or a manageable deficit, whichever way you look at it. But they needed that little bit of extra killer instinct. And when Iris came on, by God, did she provide it. And Andrea Sullivan also came on at half time, and Andrea got a goal not too long after coming on, and it looked as if the Limerick revival was taking root. But Michelle Guckian's goal halfway through the half seemed to put the kibosh on that, and it at that stage you were beginning to wonder, were Limerick out of it? Was the task too great? Because I think it restored a 7 or an 8 point lead at that stage, which with a quarter of an hour to go, Jack, was very, very formidable. Because you must remember that Leitrim were only 9 points ahead at half time. And when Michelle Guckian got the goal, here they were halfway through the second half, and Limerick, the only imprint Limerick had made on the lead was 2 points. So, like,
Yeah.
it looked as if it was Leitrim's game to lose, but by God, did Limerick dig in. And Iris Kennedy, Iris got applied the finish, but you would have to say from Sophia Hennessy right up to number 15, every last one of them, they gave it everything. And like, what odds, Jack, with 15 minutes to go, would you have got that with 3 minutes of regulation time left, Limerick would be 2 points ahead?
They'd be given odds for it. It would have been close.
It was a phenomenal performance, and I don't like singling out individuals, Jack, but the arrival in the squad of Karen O'Leary and Debbie Murphy, I thought they were absolutely phenomenal on last Sunday. But
having Deborah at wing back is a luxury to have, because she so often goes forward but doesn't neglect her defensive duties. But we've seen it in the club championship for Monaghan, just the role they've played in recent years in winning back-to-back titles, and that they've integrated into the inter-county setup, and having Iris back as well is a huge positive. And there's no real negatives from the campaign thus far for Graham Shine's side.
But Jack, very interestingly, had Limerick lost now, they were in danger of going out, even if they beat Derry, because both Leitrim and Wicklow have beat Kilkenny by a substantially greater margin than Limerick did.
No,
for instance, last Sunday, Wicklow beat Kilkenny 10-20 to 2 points, I think, was it?
Yeah, it was something like that. Anyway, it's an awful drop.
Yeah, I think it was 10-20 to 2 points. But that raises questions about, is it too big a jump for Kilkenny? But I suppose they've got to start somewhere. If Limerick hadn't got the point, irrespective of even if they won in Derry, they could have been edged out of the semi-finals on scoring difference.
Yeah, but
if Limerick win in Derry now, Jack, they cannot be, because Wicklow and Leitrim are meeting in the final round, and something has to give. And it may be Leitrim that would miss out were they to lose to Wicklow.
I think a draw will do Limerick as well. They're level on points with Leitrim, and they're a point ahead of Wicklow as it stands. So I think a draw will do in the final round, but they'll be looking to get a win ahead of hopefully a league semi-final.
There's no such thing as playing for a draw, and you must remember that games are coming thick and fast now. There's a break this coming weekend. Limerick are not involved, but they're involved the following weekend, that trip to Derry. And as far as I know, Jack, the semi-finals are the week after.
Yeah, I think that's how it laid out.
Because
but Limerick,
you must remember, it's the only division of the ladies' football where there are semi-finals.
Semi-finals, yeah. So,
but
more games.
In the other divisions, they're straight finals.
More games for this side is exactly what Graham Shine will want, and we'll take the break this weekend.
With a new squad, it's can't get enough of games.
Yeah, and we'll be back definitely next week to look forward to that game with Derry. But again,
in fairness, Jack, it has to be said that Graham is doing a fantastic job in the way he's shuffling his pack and using his forces and trying to find what he believes will be, let's say, his championship team.
Yeah, no, there's definitely been chances given out to plenty, and more are taking it. But I interrupted you there in the middle of that with an interview that we did yesterday. But John the Baptist Community School, their senior ladies side are in the Munster Senior Ladies Football Final next Wednesday, the 1st of March at half 11 in Sean Tracy Park in Tip. And we caught up with Caoimhe McNamara, which is the team's captain, and Brian Egan yesterday to look ahead to that game. So we'll play that for you now. Now, we have a special guest today, Matt, two special guests, Caoimhe McNamara and Brian Egan, ahead of John the Baptist Community School's Senior Girls Munster Final against Loretto Clonmel next Wednesday, the 1st of March at half 11 in Sean Tracy Park, Tipperary Town. Caoimhe, as captain heading into a big game like this, how are you feeling?
Well, there's always going to be a few nerves, I suppose, but we're looking forward to it, and a great opportunity for us. I know the last 2 years we got to semi-final, so this year now we're after getting to the Munster final. So yeah, I can't wait really.
After getting so close the last couple of years, there must be a real buzz around the school.
Yeah, no, there is, and there's huge support, and all the teachers are all wishing us best of luck. And yeah, no, it's great that we got there this year anyway.
And I suppose in John the Baptist, there is a huge tradition of ladies football. Obviously, in 2017, there were so many trophies won, and we'll get to that down the line. But, you know, is there a pressure to succeed there, or is it more of a privilege to go into a school like that?
I suppose probably both. Like, there's pressure. There's always going to be pressure. But, like, that was, I'd say, when I was in first year, I'd say that was when they won the All-Ireland that year. So this is kind of the first time since then that we're back. So there's always going to be a pressure. But, yeah, no, it's a privilege to represent the school as well.
And Brian, on to you as coach of the side, the same question really, you know, because you have achieved so much in recent years. What's it like training a squad in a school like that?
Yeah, it's brilliant. I must say, like when Shane Stollery and Michelle Buckley were over a few years ago, and when they stepped down, as soon as an opportunity to get involved with the girls, I kind of jumped at it because I knew how good they were. I knew there was serious potential with them, and I just knew there was another Munster final. I knew there was the potential of winning another Munster final in it. So yeah, I kind of got involved with them, and really looking forward to the final coming up. Like, this group of girls, they're just fantastic. They're an excellent bunch. They're so clued in, athletic, good footballers, and you couldn't but love being involved with them and looking forward to a final like this ahead of us.
Yeah, we kind of spoke off air about your path to the final, but you had said, you know, getting to Munster was the aim. Now that you're there, how does that shift to actually going to winning the competition?
At the start of the year, we set a very, very, what I thought was a very realistic aim of getting to a Munster final. And that was our goal from the start. And once we get to a Munster final, you can do nothing but go out to win it. You're not going to go out and lose it. Like, so that's our aim. Look, we don't know a whole lot about Clonmel. We know they're a good team. We know how good Middleton were, and we know they beat them. So yeah, we know we're capable of winning it. We know what's ahead of us. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
You mentioned that Middleton game, and obviously a first round defeat, but you bounced back to come out of the group and then won your respective quarters and semi-finals. That you look like a team that's building and probably peaking towards the final.
Yeah, our first game, we didn't have our 15 best players and tugged out even. We didn't have best 15 on the field. And then we were actually very lucky with the way the games fell. We played Ballincollig and had a good win against O's, and Closh and Skellig and a good win against O's. And then we went up another level in the quarter-final. Hurlers were very good. I think we had a few points to spare in the end, but the game didn't reflect the scoreline. And same with Cashel. Cashel were all totally on top of us at half-time when we played them, but all of a sudden the girls decided they were going playing football, and they put in a savage second half and put us into a final.
And I suppose the beauty of schools is that there's always something going on in the school, and you obviously had midterm last week, and there's the exams for, you know, the leaving certs and even some of the junior certs. There's TYs and everything. Like, what's it like preparing for a final with so many distractions?
Crazy. Like, you'd imagine that in a school where you have all your players there every day, in an ideal world, that it should be simple, but it's not. We'd mocks before the midterm. We had musical this week. We have people getting drawn from pillar to post. The minors are going at the moment. We've 7 on the Limerick minors at the moment. There's an awful lot to balance, and I suppose the biggest thing is not putting too much pressure on them. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make this something that they want to do rather than something they have to do. And that's our goal, that we're trying to keep them happy and balance everything. And it's not an easy job, I can tell you.
Yeah, Caoimhe, what's it like for you actually being in school and having to go to classes from 9 to 3 and then training? Is it a nice distraction to have?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great distraction, to be honest, because you can't be stuck in the books the whole time. It's a great release, and it's just a break, and yeah.
Matt, I'll throw it over to you for a minute.
Yeah, Brian, obviously you have a bit of history with Clonmel. If I think back to 2018 and 2019, there's a few scores to settle there.
To be honest, that doesn't even come into our context. Like that, by right, there has been Clonmel down through the years. There was an awful lot going on, but these girls didn't come up against that. Like they're very, very focused on what they have to achieve, what they have to do to win, rather than worrying about what's going on, what happened 4 or 5 years ago. That's no relevance to them when they walk on the pitch. So, like, yeah, so the girls are very focused to their task rather than what happened 4 or 5 years ago, I'd say.
Brian mentioned there a while ago about the 7 Limerick players in the John the Baptist squad. You're one of those 7. A bit of a job juggling between commitments to college and to the school and to the inter-county team at this stage, especially seeing that the Munster Minor Championship is now a full round robin and it's very condensed week after week.
Yeah, there's a lot of matches coming up, and I know it probably won't be easy, but we just try and balance it, and the trainings are we try and spread them out as much as we can and make sure we get enough time for rest and recovery, and just trying to make sure that we don't do too much. But then it is hard, but I think it's not going too bad anyway.
We'll give a special mention.
Jack referenced it there early on at the outset of the conversation, Cueva. Travelling down through the hollowed walls of the hallowed corridors of John the Baptist School and seeing all those photographs of successful teams, particularly the squad of 2017 and what they achieved. You know, that was a historic achievement, that it was the first Limerick team to win a school's All-Ireland since Limerick CBS had won the Cup in 1966. So it was a huge achievement. Does it pile a bit of pressure on, or is it a motivating factor when you see these and look at them every day and you up and down changing to drive on and emulate what they have done?
I'd say it is, yeah. I think that whole team, like, they're all role models for us, and like we just want to achieve what they've achieved in the past. But we don't really think about it too much. Like, we're focused on our own game, and we're focused on ourselves mostly.
And Brian, I think you're happening with something there before we finish up.
I just wanted to say that Cueva was talking about the minors. Look, we're very lucky that the minor management has been very good to us, and I was just going to give my mention there. They have balanced. They've been very good to balance the two together, and they definitely have helped us in a bit anyway.
Yeah, I suppose it's all for the benefit of football around the area. And lastly, for me, Cueva, I suppose the team is mainly made of players around the area, like St. Bridget, St. Ailbe's, Palace Green, you're on Knockany and them. What's it like playing with girls that you're against when it's the club championship, but when you're wearing the colours of John the Baptist, that you're the one team?
Yeah, no, it's great to get to play together instead of always being in opposition. And like, you make great friends. Like, you'd be 1 week you'd be playing against each other, and then you'd be off to train, and then the next day together, and just there's a great bond with all the girls, and we all get on so well. So I think it's great.
Well, please God, you can come away with the Munster title. That's the 1st of March at 11:30 in Sean Tracy Park, Tipperary Town. John the Baptist against Loretta Clonmel in the Senior Girls Munster Final. The best wishes to you, Cueva, and your team, and Brian and all the coaching involved. The whole Limerick is behind you. So that was Brian Egan and Cueva McNamara from John the Baptist School ahead of their Munster Schools Ladies Senior Final next Wednesday. Matt, we'll look at that next Wednesday. It was good to hear from the two lads there, but we are over the hour mark already. So we'll
before obviously there's a huge game on Saturday, which is the All Ireland Junior B competition, hurling competition final between Bruff and Sarsfields from Galway.
Oh yeah, no, we'll get to all those. I'm just saying before we won't get into that ladies football game yet. I have that pencil down here, don't worry. But I'm just going to move from the ladies football into the Camogie, and obviously it was disappointment for Limerick at the weekend against Wexford in Wexford Park. 3-point defeat, 13-10. It was low scoring. Limerick were without a few key players. Obviously, Adair's All-Ireland finalist, Sophie Callahan and Cueva Costello. But performance was there to an extent. Obviously, looked to get away with the victory, but you'd be hoping that if you could only concede 13 points in most games, that you'd win them. It's at the other end where they struggled, and without players like that, you are going to struggle.
Yeah, I suppose the defining period in the game, Jack, was either side of half-time, because coming up to half-time with about 5 minutes to go to half-time, the sides were deadlocked at 7 points apiece. And Wexford got 2 points just before half-time, and they got the first 3 points of the second half, which gave Limerick a bit of a mountain to climb. Now, it was in a tight game like that, 12 points is a big lead, let's face it. And but they kept at it, but they just couldn't get. Now they held Wexford in the last 20 minutes, Jack, to a single point, which augurs very, very well for the defence. And but at the other end, they just couldn't get those few extra scores that would probably have helped them to get something out of it. You just wonder, had Limerick had home advantage, perhaps they may have turned it around, or they may have got a result out of it. Now, Quiver Costello, of course, was a huge loss, so her free-taking duties fell to Anya Reynolds and goalkeeper Claire Keating, who landed a couple of long-range frees. And you're right, they were also without Sophia Callahan, and Ailby Larkin was another one that was missing. And of course, Rebecca DeLee is going to be out for the league. But overall, I think that John Lewis has quite a few positives to take out of it. Like he I think he gave as many as 5 debuts. 2 in the half back line, Tifa Nelligan and Emily O'Halloran of both of Mona Lean, and to Lisanna Boylan got a start up in the forwards, and we had a couple that came off the bench. Then Claire O'Riordan came off the bench, Ellie Madigan came off the bench for their debuts. So overall, I'd say there was a lot of positivity to be taken out of it, Jack. But lo and behold, we were informed by about the structure of the league last Friday. You were probably told about it as well. So it's 1 up and 1 down between the divisions. So there's only 1 place up for grabs. So in the context of the league, it's going to make it very, very difficult for Limerick to win promotion.
Yeah.
But having looked at the results in the we'd say Division 1A, where all counties should aspire to, with unusual results there, in that Tipperary emphatically turned over league champions Galway, but Galway were without a whole raft of players for different reasons. And I suppose the eye-opening result of the weekend was Clare's win over All-Ireland champions Kilkenny.
Yeah.
But in the other game, it was business as usual. Cork literally ruthlessly dismissed a youthful Dublin side in MTU. But it's going to be tough. And like, they're back in action this Saturday. This Saturday, when they play Antrim in McNeville Park at 1 o'clock. And Limerick Juniors are also out this week. David Deedy now has taken over as manager of, well-known referee David, has taken over as manager of the Limerick Junior Ladies Football Camogie team. And they're also playing Antrim in Capamore at 12:30. I would have thought in normal circumstances that such a situation would have lent itself to a double header. But I suppose with pitches and everything at this time of the year, I can see where they're coming from, but like we only learned late last night, Jack, and it's no fault of Limerick. And I mean late last night.
I know
the times that the games were on. What exactly is going on with the Camogie Association? I don't know, because I got a full list of fixtures, times, venues, and everything at 9:30 Monday morning from the Ladies Football Association.
Yeah, I know you'll be banging your head against the wall trying to figure out what's going on there. But it's a recurrent theme every week, and as you said, it's nothing to do with Limerick, but it needs to be sorted. But we won't dwell on that, Matt, as we are running
No,
over
Jack,
time.
because
But
we'd be only denying ourselves. No.
yeah, you're not going to get a solution anyway. But
No.
you had mentioned another game on Saturday, that All Ireland Junior B final in Killeedy between Bruff and Sarsfields of Galway. Obviously, we were speaking to Bruff there 2 weeks ago before their semi-final. They got over the challenge of St. Martin's. Sarsfield beat Hurlers. So it is a meeting of the provincial champions. Sarsfield were Crown Lens champions. Bruff beat Hurlers to win the Munster Championship. So the cream has risen to the top. Bruff will be hoping to make history and bring back the title to Limerick. But it'll be a difficult game against Sarsfields, who have shown their worth throughout the competition, as have Bruff.
Yeah, but we had Roger on 2 weeks ago, Roger Mulqueen, their manager, and if he's a microcosm of the enthusiasm and passion that's in Bruff, and he is a fair microcosm of it, because I've seen all that 3 games, and Jack, these teams have arrived in the final in contrasting circumstances, is the best way I can put it. Sarsfields from Galway were not really tested in the competition to date. But by God, have Bruff, and our Bruff battle hardened. Now, I saw their opening game against 6 Mile Bridge, and I would be critical on that day of Bruff, but it was their first day out. Like, they shot 13 wides to 6 Mile Bridge's 4. They had 6 Mile Bridge on the rack for most of, if not all of the second half, and failed to put them away. But I saw them against Thurles Sarsfield. There was such a measurable improvement. And the way they dug that out, Jack, Thurles Sarsfield's like, you know, the game wasn't 5 minutes old when Thurles Sarsfields were 3 points to no score up. You know, and when you look at it, and when you look at Cole's statistics for the remaining 55 or plus injury time of whatever, they only scored 1-3, and the goal was a fortuitous goal from Redzer O'Grady. That will give you an extent to how Bruff really dug in and dug it out. And then in the semi-final, and when we had Roger Mulqueen post-match, in his post-match interview after the semi-final win over St. Martin's, and he repeated the mantra again during the week in an interview with myself. We thought we had won, and we thought we had it lost. But there were 2 points down going into injury time, and David Brown stepped up to the plate. And what a story David Brown is in the context of this competition. And he hit 2 marvellous points. They looked to have it won then in extra time. And right at the death, St. Martin's got a goal. And it looked like, here we go. We were wondering at which goal the penalties would be taken.
Yeah.
And again, David Brown stepped up to a difficult free, Jack. Very difficult free for a young man in the circumstances. He planted it over the black spot, and that's why we are where we are next Saturday. And the point I'm making is that in terms of challenges, Bruff have really got the challenges. They're battle hardened, and I'm convinced now Sarsfields are firm favourites. They have 3 or 4 players, Jack, that won county senior medals with Sarsfields in 2015. They have this fella Carol Wade, an outstanding. He's their go-to man. He's their scorer in chief. He has won 3 All Irelands. He's won a minor All Ireland in 2004. He's won an All Ireland under 21 in 2005 and 2007, starting in all 3 finals and playing all 3 finals. Yeah, you know, and that gives them, you know, the right to be favourites. But I'm convinced, Jack, if going down the home straight with 15 minutes to go, and Bruff are there or thereabouts, I'd put my shirt on the boys from the south.
Yeah, I wouldn't be backing against Bruff from what they've shown us so far this year. But 2 o'clock in Cleedy this Saturday. The very best of luck to Bruff in their All Ireland Junior B final against Sarsfields, and well done to Cleedy again for hosting it. But we'll be talking about that game and hopefully talking about a Bruff All Ireland win next week. Since we last spoke as well, Matt, we had the Sigerson and Fitzgibbon Cup finals. Somewhat of a split between us. UCC getting the win in the Sigerson, and the college, the college getting the win in the Sigerson, and UL retaining their Fitzgibbon Cup title. Wednesday's game, you had said that UCC hadn't really performed, but when they needed to, they did, and it could have went either way. It went extra time, but I think over the course of the hour, UCC deserving.
Yeah, I think they are. My allegiance to them, but I was so sorry that it had to be at the expense of UL, and but I had seen the 3 previous games, Jack, and I would have to say that I didn't see a Sigerson Cup in them.
Yeah,
and I probably said that, and they held and got the best performance of the campaign in the final. It was without question their best performance, and of course they were slightly motivated, Jack, by the fact that the sides had met in the opening round in the Mardyke, and UCC at the time were protesting that that they were very, very unlucky to lose that particular game. So I suppose it was obvious from the start that it was going to be a close final, even though I would have given my vote to UL to win it. I would have thought that they had shown such improvement, and they had an impressive campaign, and I suppose none more so than when they went up to Galway and beat University of Galway, who they had beaten in the final last year, who they had lost in the final last year. And that to me, I thought that was a Sigerson Cup winning performance. And in the respective semi-finals, Jack, they were far more impressive than UCC. They had a very, very good win over DCU. I thought UCC, having been in in nearly an invincible position at one stage, leading by 7 points, struggled to hold out TU Dublin. So the pointers were towards UL, you'd have to say, but UCC, I think, kept their best performance of the campaign and took the Sigerson for the 24th time.
Deserving winners, in fairness, but very disappointing, I suppose, for the Limerick contingent, especially the Declan Bruder and Stephen Levin and them, and obviously John Hayes and Ron McGilligan part of the squad. But in more positive news for Limerick, on Saturday, UL retained their title with a pretty comprehensive win over the University of Galway in Waterford. Mikey Kiley got 4 goals inside 33 minutes, I'd say. 4-19 to 1-13. We had Adam English and Colin Coughlin both started, both played their parts. Colin Neal has been a key figure in the team so far, but he was ruled out with injury. But no real surprises, Matt. Probably a surprise with the manner of the victory, that it was so comprehensive. But for UL to be the last team standing, if you had asked us 2 months ago, I think we would have been leaning that way. So no real surprises there.
I don't think there's any surprise. The only surprise element, Jack, as you rightly say, is the margin. And look, I don't think anybody could argue with either the result or could argue with the margin. But Jack, watching the game, I was scratching my head and scratching every part of me and saying to myself, what is the relationship between Mikey Kiley and the Fitzgibbon Cup? It's a very, very special one because, 4 goals last Saturday. But this is the guy that came up right at the death, the very, very last puck of the game in last year's final, and got the goal that won it. So I think you can trawl the history books and try and find a player that has scored 5 goals in two Fitzgibbon Cup finals.
He also got a hat-trick in this year's quarter.
I think you'll do some trawling before you'll find it.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to go searching for it, Jack, but it's a phenomenal performance by the Abbey side, man. And
Yeah.
Obviously Davy Fitz will be now he's on the Waterford panel,
Yeah,
but
he was there last year as
Davy
well.
Fitz will be hoping that type of form, that goal scoring threat that he posed in the Fitzgibbon Cup, that he'll be able to translate it onto the Waterford panel. But overall, it was a great performance, Jack. Again, I suppose like UCC in the Sigerson Cup final. They had good performances during the year, but look, they really kept their best performance for the final, I think. The issue was never in doubt. Those 2 early goals that he had got. He 2 goals got by the 13th minute, and I think he got the other one before half time and another one 4 minutes into the second half. I think that was the sequence.
Dean Mason saved a penalty, one of the first pucks of the game, and I think from the other end they went down and scored the goal and never looked back. And I mentioned Adam English and Colin Coughlin, but they were really good as well. Like Mikey Kiley takes all the headlines.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
Congratulations to the 2 lads. They were fantastic. Like it augurs well for Limerick the way that these 2 lads are playing, because they're showing exceptionally good form. They've shown exceptionally good form in UL's run to winning the Fitzgibbon Cup. And Jack, they're seamlessly translating it onto the Limerick team.
Yeah,
like
that's the thing.
Colin Coughlin's performances with the Limerick team have been very, very impressive. And Adam English, we spoke about him last week, and his performance against Clare really augurs well for the future, Jack.
Yeah, they're 2 players that have hit the ground running, and the way it's going, they'll be very close to a starting 15 come championship time for Limerick. But that's UL Fitzgibbon Cup winners, UCC Sigerson Cup winners. We have a death notice, unfortunately, Matt, and that's just the way things are. And condolences to the family of Pat McGarry, who passed away recently. A tremendous handball player. Yeah, you were telling me, and obviously his brother did a lot with Limerick as well, but another Gael lost.
Oh yeah, Jack, and absolutely. I remember him. I never saw him actually playing football other than following his career. And Pat McGarry was bringing in titles to Limerick when none of our hurlers or footballers were doing so in the 60s, which was a very fallow period for Limerick GAA. And he was a member of the old St. Munchin's Handball Club, which is now unfortunately defunct. But Jack, in his career, he won everything at underage level, but I suppose the headline figure is that in his career he won 27 Munster senior titles, to go with 11 All-Ireland senior titles, which is absolutely a phenomenal run of success. And in 2016, Jack, it was very, very appropriate that Pat McGarry, who was a brother of the late Tom, very well-known Limerick sportsman, he was inducted into the GAA Hall of Fame. And it certainly wasn't before time, because Pat McGarry has been not only Limerick's, but one of the game's greatest handballers. And it's very, very, very sad to hear of his passing. And we extend his sympathy to his wife and to his family. A truly, truly great Limerick sportsman is gone.
Yeah, I pass on our condolences there again to the family. And just off topic, Matt, I suppose Limerick GAA had an announcement this morning that we'll have the Wolfe Tones in the 2 Gaelic Grounds on the 26th of August. Will you be going?
Yeah, I'm a Wolfe Tones fan.
Yeah. What's your go-to song from the Wolfe Tones? Or is it safe to say?
Come out, you black and tans.
I don't know if we can
because
keep that in.
I've heard so much stories about the black and tans.
Okay.
And all anecdotal, of course, but but I've spoken to people that obviously I'm around long enough that vividly remember the black and tans. you know, I like most of their songs. I like the Wolfe Tones, and I think one thing TUS Gaelic Grounds will be rocking, Jack.
Yeah, well, 26th of August, you'll be hopeful that you'll have Liam McCarthy there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It'll be a month after the All Ireland final, so
Yeah.
the club championship will be in the swing of things. Is the only thing.
It will. And by the way, I was very, very sorry when the breakup came in the Wolfe Tones and that Derek Warfield left them, but they've continued. The Wolfe Tones have stood the test of time. You know.
Yeah, I do like the Wolfe Tones, and there is some sort of historical, I suppose.
And what's your favourite with him, Jack?
I don't know. I'm to be honest, between themselves and the Dubliners and the High Kings, I don't actually know who sings all those songs. The Wolfe Tones don't sing Streets of New York, do they? That's not them.
No.
Yeah, I'm seeing. I'd have to go into Spotify and check. I'll have it for you. I'll have it for you next week.
They sing it sometimes. Very interesting one that sing. A very interesting one that they sing. Go home, British soldiers, go home.
You're getting very, very political here.
I no, but
they sing.
It's one of those emotive ones that they sing, and they seem to choose the right time during a performance to pick up these ones. Come out, your black and tans, and go home, British soldiers, go home, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, but look, it's good for the Gaelic Grounds that the Limerick community can get out there, and there should be a bit of funds as well for the Gaelic Grounds.
Oh yeah, I don't know what the capacity for a concert like that will be, but I will imagine I'd be surprised if it won't be a sellout.
Yeah, and hopefully it's the second sellout in a month, as I said. Hopefully it'll be the homecoming in July to warm up the Gaelic Grounds, and then we'll have the Wolfe Tones in August. But it's fair play to Limerick J for organising it. It bodes well, and something to look forward to down the line. I'm not sure where you get your tickets yet, but I'm sure when they're released, we'll let you know. But just under an hour and a half, Matt. It was a very, very busy podcast. Obviously, with a huge contribution from Barry Hennessy at the start. If you came in late, I definitely recommend go back and listen. There's brilliant insight to 3 in a row on Ireland winning camp, and obviously he's won 4 Limerick senior hurling titles with Kilmallock and won a Munster and got an All Ireland with them as well. So a glittering career for Barry, and then we obviously have all the games to look forward to this weekend. The Camogie side are at home on Saturday against Antrim. Prof are in Killeedy on Saturday in an All-Ireland final, and then on Sunday you have the senior hurlers and senior footballers both on the road, hurlers in Galway, footballers in Cork. So the best luck to all those sides. A huge thank you to everyone that's listened in. Make sure you like and subscribe, do all those good things on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and Twitter. And again, to you, Matt, a huge thank you for your indelible contribution as always, and your choice of Wolfe Tones songs at the end. We'll be in touch next week. Look forward to more games.
Don't be hanging that around my neck for the next 6 months.
No, I won't. Not until the concert. We'll see how you behave inside the Gaelic Grounds. But from us, a huge thank you, and we'll be back again next week.
Impression again, we get out with what you put into. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it. No more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods, and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well, Johnny Buckley. To do that to Tommaso Sheahy, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word court today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey. Carey leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high.
There's no sympathy in this